if you work at a recruitment agency as a recruiter, let me show you a system that is going to save you so many hours. So I understand how hard it can be to sit down and compile and analysis and report after every interview and send it over to your boss, decision makers in the agency. Let me show you a system that can do that for you while you handle other things in the agency. So let me just show you what that typically would look like, what we're trying to build here. So this can be different for you depending on how you currently work. But what we are just trying to establish here is, first off, I'm sure that our calls are always being recorded with a note taker. We always like admit a note taker to come in and take notes. So what we are going to do is get the transcript from that note taker, or wherever we record our notes and put, or wherever we record our meetings into. So we are going to get that transcript and then extract all the details from it and use those details to analyze the sentiment and also analyze the risk of hiring this person. Is this person a good cultural fit and all of that? Once you're done, we can store the feedback in a spreadsheet or in our database in our ATS. If you can do in your ATS, in your database, wherever you want to put it, then we generate a report from that and of course send that to our bosses, right? So that is like the idea of what we're trying to build. That's like the full work down, but for some things might be different here depending on the tools that you currently have access to and what you're working with. So let's just go in and build that. So to get started on this, you are going to get into your automation tool so that we can start building. You can use Make, N10, Zapier, whichever one that you use, where it's fine. So what you want to do if you're going to use Make is to come here, create a scenario. So there are different note takers that you can use to get your transcript, or you can even go through the route of uploading your transcript to your drive and then downloading it from your drive and using it in the setup. Whatever works for you. Like I said, this is just an idea. You refine it into what will work best for the current way that you're working, right? So what you're going to do now is get our transcript from our note taker. In this case, I want to use Fireflies, but one thing that is that I will not be able to. Fireflies does not allow you to directly get transcripts once they land, so you would have to always be manually going in to get the transcript. So here's what I mean. So if you search Fireflies here, the only thing you can do is get a particular transcript, like I said, a single transcript, or list all the transcripts available to a user. So you can't actually watch for when an interview just finished so that you can get the transcript immediately, right? So the fix for that is going to be for us to use something called a webhook. So in this case, here's what it looks like. So I'm going to be using a custom webhook. So whenever data comes into Fireflies, it's immediately going to start trigger the system to start running. So I'm going to do custom webhook, and I'm going to come here. I'm going to do add here, and I'm going to call it maybe like my Fireflies webhook. And then I'm just going to save this. One thing that I did forget to add was the API, right? So I forgot to add this API. So we're going to create the webhook again. So we're going to do add here, and here I'm supposed to add my API, right? So I'm going to do, so I'll copy my API key here and provide it in here. And also maybe I can change the name of the API, chain key. And once I'm done with that, I'm just going to go ahead and create it. And you see it picks it up immediately for me, so I can save this. And then now that I have my webhook URL, I will just copy that, go back into my Fireflies, and then click on webhook, and under there you can see the integrations page. So just simply just click on that. It takes you to the integrations page to be able to integrate your webhook URL. Okay, so now that we are here, we just click on configure, and we provide the webhook URL that we copied there. So we just paste it in here, and the sign-in secret is really optional, so we are just going to ignore that. Set the event subscriptions, the event that triggers the the actions. The first one will be the message transcribed, and we are going to go ahead and continue that. We're going to send text event. Okay, that doesn't work. Let's just continue it and save it to be able to trigger it to run again. So you're just going to go ahead, configure this again. I'm thinking I should add like message transcribed and then maybe summarize as well. Just I think it's almost the same thing. So we are just looking for transcription, right? So that will still work for us. So we save this and automatically we have that webhook created, right? That's the default configuration that you can see there. Now let's see if we can push past events into the setup to be able to establish, because I think I have recorded 2 meetings, so I think I want to work with those two for these tests. So let's see if I can, push that into to see if it's working. Let's see. Yeah, this is my meeting that I, just had, and it has been transcribed for me. So that means I have my transcription that, should be pushed into this if we have configured it correctly. So that is not working because that means that there is something wrong. We have not configured this correctly. So one mistake that so I had to just real quick try to, sort out what the problem was, figure out what the problem was, because I also noticed that for some reason Fireflies keep, switching out things. So what I've noticed, if you're going to be using Fireflies right now as August 2026, so if you're trying to create a webhook connection, you do not need to add the API that we added. Once you add that API, you're not going to be able to push data into the setup. So that's the issue that we had. So what you want to do is come in this add API that we did add, just remove it like so. You are going to be fine. Once you remove this, try to run it again. It's going to work perfectly. But all the steps are still the same. Just create your add connection here and create this, and you save it. Sorry, and then copy the webhook URL and put into your configuration here, right? And you're good to go. So that's the problem that we were having. So now that that is figured out, we are going to move on to the next stage. So now we have our data here. We have the meeting ID. We have the timestamp. So we're going to move to the next stage, which is going to be getting our transcript. So we want to use the meeting ID to get our transcript. So we're going to go to Fireflies. I don't think I need all these things. So we're going to go to Fireflies here. And we're going to get a transcript. So we need to get that transcript. So my own connection, I don't think this is the one I want to use. So I'm going to go ahead and add a connection. And here is where I'm going to add my API key. So you need API key for other connections, not the webhook, connection. So I'm going to do Fireflies connection 2. So I'm going to go into my Fireflies now and get that API key that we used initially. So we're going to come to dev tools, and we're going to come here, and then we copy this and we come back here and we put it, and we're going to go ahead and save that. So our transcript ID is going to be this here, which is the meeting ID. That's what we're looking for. So we're going to do meeting ID here, and we're going to save this, and we save this. So let's try to run this with existing data and see what it's going to look like. So it has gotten our transcript here for us. So we can see the link to our transcript here. So what we want to do now is be able to download, because the transcript is still in the web. So we want to be able to download the transcript so that we can work with, the content of the transcript. So to be able to do that, we're going to need a module called HTTP, and we want to download a file because we have the URL, we just need to download it. So we're going to put in our URL here. So if you come down, you're going to see the URL here. So you put it and you save this, and of course again you save this. So now we're going to go to the next stage, which is going to, where we start the analysis, because now we have been able to get our meeting transcript and we have downloaded the transcript into the system. So now we can start working with it. So the first thing that we want to do is to extract details from the transcript. So we're going to use OpenAI to do it. I'm going to use OpenAI for most of the AI analysis. But of course, if you have a better AI that you think gives you better, output, you can switch for that. Perplexity, Claude, whichever one you want to use works perfectly. So we are going to come here, and I want to generate a completion. So of course, my own connection already exists. If yours doesn't, just go to online help. You'll see documentation on how to get your own, connection, establishing connection rather. So you come to model here, and you want to go down to, I like to use a lower model for test purposes like this, but if in your own case, you might want to go a little bit higher. And we're going to add our first message. I already have like a prompt that I had AI write for me, so I'm just going to work with that because I feel like it's going to be such a hard task. Drafting or writing the prompt myself. But of course, in your own case, you might decide to do it different. So here is what we want to work with. The first message is going to be the developer message, where we put in this. Of course, you're not going to copy mine verbatim. You're just going to, rewrite yours so that it fits into what you want. And we're going to add the next, which is the user text. But one thing I feel like I want to do is see if I can get the attendee here, and then I can, find the attendee email in our database so what I want to do is, and what the step that I did means was to get the candidates from our database so that way we can tag them to the role that we're trying to get them, their CV and everything. So that's why we're going to go back a step further, and add we're going to add a module here. So what we want this module to do is search our database and bring the candidate for us. So of course, this can be your ATS. So what we want is for you to search the ATS or your database and bring the candidates for us. So this can, of course, like I said, your ATS. In this case, I'm using my database because I don't have an ATS. So I'm going to do the candidates database here, and I'm going to be searching the candidates table. And the view really doesn't matter. The output field, you can get everything that you want, or you can just leave it. Whatever, it's still going to return what we need. But what's important here is the formula, right? So what we have here as the participant is Comfort Joe here. So I'm going to use this email as my as the email of the participants. That way, when we're running it again, it's not going to throw up an error for us. So I'm going to switch out one of the emails to fit into that email, because of course your candidates are going to be joining with their emails that is most likely logged in on the system. If it's not, it's going to throw an error and you will have to fix that. But ideally, most candidates, because I'm sure that's the email that they're using to receive all notifications, so they'll most likely join the meeting with that same email. I, for one, used to join the meeting with the same email that I reached out to, just so they'll be able to keep communication going. I cannot be switching emails in between. So yeah, so I'm thinking that's the same idea with a lot of candidates, although they can be a switch and different. So, but most likely it's always going to be the same, right? Because technically, if it's not even the same, you're going to struggle to find the exact candidate that you interviewed, right? If their email doesn't fit into what you have in your ATS, you're going to struggle to, be able to tag them, communicate with them, and all of that. So that's why I don't think candidates ideally just switch emails like that when they're trying to get into a workspace. I don't think they do that. So that's what you're going to try to achieve. What is going on? So we are going to go ahead and change one of these emails to now to this. Yes, so that way we can be able to get the candidate. So we are now going to set the email. We're going to call it email, right? Yeah, email, that's what it's called, is equal to what we have here at the participant. So yeah, so that works. And then we save this and we save this. So that way we are able to get our candidate details. So now if we come back here now to our user, we can put this in here, and we can tag it to the right field. So in this case, we are going to get our candidate name from the the database. Now we're going to get the role. We're going to get the role from the job applied for, and interview stage. Um, I don't have that in my database, but of course you would have that. And then the interviewer name would be or we can just, or can just come from the meeting itself, right? Or you can already have that, like I have this here. So the interview transcript will come from here. It will come from the data that we get from here. That's where the interview transcript will come from. So we are able to pull that off, and then, oh shit. So now that we have that, this looks good. Like I said, you're not going to be copying this. You just, get the idea, and you rework it into what works for the way you currently work. So you save this, and of course you save this. So the next thing that we want to do here after we've extracted details is to analyze the sentiment, right? We want to see if they are good, fit for the role that we are trying to get them for. Of course, that yours can be different depending on what you look for when you are, doing the interview. That's what you want to start extracting now from this transcript. What do you look for? Do you want to see if they are perfect, if they have the perfect culture fit, or whatever you're just looking for in interviews is what you want to start extracting. So let's say, for example, you're trying to get like sentiment or something. We'll use the same method, but this one prompt is of course going to be different. So the model here, you're going to go lower as usual, and yeah. So we do 4 mini, and we do add the message here. I'm just going to copy my prompt. And the first row is going to be the developer row. And here's what my prompt looks like. And I'm going to add here. I'm going to be adding the details that I need here. So the candidate's name comes from here. The role they applied for comes from here. The interview stage, I don't have that. The JSON analysis comes from the last one, and then the original transcript comes from here, right? So now that we have that, it's going to extract these other things for us so that we can, use that. And then we're going to go ahead and save this, and we save this. What else do we want? So we want to now analyze the risk. So we want to extract risk details and all of that. Like I said, this is just going to depend on how you know the information that you look for when you're trying to, talk to your candidate or, interview your candidate. So I'm going to save this, and we're going to call an AI module again. So we do OpenAI, we still want to generate a completion. And then we're going to do the model here. We're going to come down to 4 mini. And my first message is going to be the developer message. And I'm going to be adding my content here. I'm going to add the second user message. Here's what it will look like. So the candidate's name always comes from here. The role always comes from here. Interview stage, I do not have that. And then this is the first one. And then the sentiment analysis will come from here. And then the transcript itself will come from here. And I guess that's it. We go ahead and save this, and we save this. So once we have gotten all the information that we need, the next thing is that we want to store our feedback in our database, right? So we want to go ahead and store our feedback. So in this case, let's just say we create a new table here. I'm going to be using, what's it called? This one. So we're going to be creating a new table with this data here. So we're going to share build an interview table that has the field below. So we're going to I don't think I want to put that ID. But of course, I think you would already have this in your ATS, so just connect it to this. You're going to, it's still going to work perfectly, right? But we're just going to build it because I don't have one in my domain database. Yeah, so it's currently building it. So yeah, it is done building that. Is it though? Yeah, so it's done building that for us. So here is the table that we want it to store all the feedback. So we're going to come back to our setup and then we add a module here. And we're going to go ahead and then we're going to create a record here. So once we create the record, we are going to do, we want to reload this so that it will show us the new created. Okay, yeah, data candidates database is the base. And then the table is this interview evaluations. So the candidate's name, of course, will come from our normal candidate's name, and the row will come from the normal row. Where is it though? The job applied for, and then oh yeah, so we forgot to extract all this data out as a JSON so that we can be able to get our information. So because we already have like a format for each of them, so it's just easy to create each of the for JSON. So we're going to add our module in between each of them to extract all the JSONs that we need, so that when we're going to create our database, we can just our record in a database, it will be easy. So we're going to do, I need to copy this one. So here's what its extracted data will look like. So we are going to be copying this, and then we're going to be putting it into our JSON to generate the all the output for us. So we're going to pass JSON here, and we're going to add a new one. So we're going to say interview details, and then we want to generate, and you can put our data here and we are able to generate. So it has generated everything for us here. So we save this. The next thing we want to do is get our results from here, and we save this. So we have done the first one. We're going to do the same thing here. We're going to add a JSON module as well. But before we go in, we have to copy our output structure. So here's what our output structure looks like. So we'll copy that, save this, and then we're going to come here and we're going to do JSON, and we're going to pass a JSON, and we're going to add our interview details or sentiment, interview sentiment, right? Interview sentiment details. So we'll do generate here, and we put in a sample data, and we do generate. So it goes ahead to generate everything for us. So we'll save this, and then we put in our results from here, and we save it, and we save this. So now we're going to add the last one, which I'm still going to get my structure from here. Again, come down, you can see my structure here. So it's going to return exactly this. So we copy this and we save this. So we add our JSON now. So we do JSON and we pass JSON. So we're going to add like risk, interview risk, or whatever you want to call it, right? Interview risk details. So we do generate here, and then we are going to do here, and then we generate. So it has generated here for us. So we're going to just save this, and then we'll add a result from here, and then we save this. We save this. Always remember to save this. So now that we have all of this established, we can now create the record in our ATS or in our database. So we are going to go in now using a table. I'm going to create a record, and my own connection already exists. So I'll just do candidates database, which is my base, and I'm going to do my table, which is interview evaluation. And now the candidate's name will be everywhere. Let's see. Yeah, so you see the candidate's name here. We see the role here. We see the interviewer here. We see the interview stage here. We see the interview dates from, our dates coming from here. No, not the title. We want to work with the date. So this is the date. And the transcript URL will also come from here. And the raw transcript will come from here. And the technical score will start going up to look for where is the score, technical ability. So we are going to be looking for it here, technical ability and communication here, problem solving here, collaboration here, and then overall score. We can have that calculated from what we have here. And recommendation, interview work, and then we come to the sentiment here. We come to the sentiment here and we do sentiment score, and then we can do like tier strength. I mean, you can just, I'm just showing you how to, map this data. You can map it with everything that you have. So, I mean, all the, like I said, it will depend on what you're trying to get of, the interview or the details that you're trying to get. So you can always just, map it to whatever details that you're trying to get, right? So the evidence can come from here, and then the risk here can come from here. The missing information can come from here. The confidence can come from here. The submitted ad will be now. That's when it is running and when it immediately submits it. So we are going to come to this, and then we're just going to put now this is when it submitted it. So yeah, we're just going to work with that. And then the candidates here, we don't need to add anything there because that one is automatically mapped to this. So okay, yeah, we can do this, right? Since we have the candidate record here, we have the candidate record ID here. So yeah, we can just map it there and it will automatically map the candidate for us. So we save this. Now we have created our, interview feedback for that particular candidate. So we save this. The next thing we want to do now is generate a report that we are going to send to our boss about, the general things that we have, noticed about the candidates and what we think would work. So we're going to use OpenAI to do that as well. So we're going to generate a completion here. So now we are going to add our AI module, and what we want to do is have the AI module generate the report. So we are going to use the model lower. So we are going to do this, and then once we do that, we're going to add a message here, which is the developer message, and here is what it can look like. Of course, it might be different for you depending on how you want to send it. You want to send it as an email, do you want to send it on Slack? So say this one, we want to send this message to the hiring manager on Slack directly to their their inbox. So we are going to use this and say, okay, your job is to synthesize interview assessment into a concise evidence-based hiring manager report. Simple, a bunch of things. And then here is the interview report, right? So we say report interview feedback. So we're going to use the interview feedback that we created to, um we're going to use the interview feedback that we created to, what's it called? To send it to the in oh god, why am I missing all my words? We're going to use this that we created because else we are just going to come down here and be all over the place. So what we're going to do is interview feedback. We're going to do this. Alternatively, we can just do candidate. So we can do the candidate here. And then we can do interviewer here, or we can do role here, right? Because it is important that, our boss knows the role that the person was trying to get into. And then we can now do interviewer, which is the person that, of course, did the interview. And then we can do overall interview. So we can use the, the all the data that we have so that it can have enough information to do everything. So we'll do overall sentiment and sentiment gotten, overall sentiment from interview, overall sentiment from interview. So we'll do this, and we do nope, I think I got the wrong thing. Yeah, I did do wrong thing. So we are going to be getting the overall sentiment from top, which is here. Is it? Yeah, so the next thing that we want to do is now say overall risk, which is this one up here. So yeah, so now that we have that, that is pretty much everything. So it's just going to create the summary for us and the report for us, and then we can go ahead now that the report has been created to send this to our boss on Slack. So I mean, you can use email or whatever, but I'm thinking this is going to be like a fast process. Just let them know what's up, and if they feel like, oh yeah, this person is good, we want to talk to this person, they can actually go in and review. Or once it is dropped, they know that you are done with the previous interview, they can just go in and review the data from the interview, and then continue from there, right? So we want it to be easy peasy, quick, and fast enough, so that in case we see a candidate, so that once we see a candidate, or once we see candidates that are very promising, we can just get onto them as soon as we can, right? So that's what I'm thinking in my head. But of course, yours can be different. If your boss prefers to receive it as an email, of course, completely send it as an email. So we are going to come here, and we're going to save this, and we're going to save this. So now the last step and the final step is to send this as an email to your, sorry, not email, Slack, like we said. I would say maybe your boss prefers it on Slack, but if that it doesn't prefer it that way, you can just, So what we want to do is send a message to our boss wherever they prefer it. If he prefers an email, just change the report to an email and send it out. But if in our own case, it's Slack or any communication tool that we use. So say WhatsApp or whatever we use works fine. So my own already exists here. We can send this as a user so that boss will not suspect, and then we can select from the list here. We don't want to send it to a public channel. We want to send it as a direct message. And of course, you can see your boss's handle here, so you can just save that, and then you can send them the reports from here, and then you can save this and you can save this. So finally, your system is ready. So now every time that you have an interview, immediately you are done with that interview and the meeting gets transcribed, it's going to automatically extract all the details about around the interview, analyze the sentiments, analyze the risk involved with this person, analyze if the person is a good culture fit, and then create the feedback for you in the interviews feedback database, so that you can go back and of course review that again when you are finally trying to shortlist for your best candidates. That's good data to have. And once it's done creating that, it goes ahead as well to send this to your boss on Slack, so that your boss can also know that you're done with that interview, and if your boss needs to go and look at it and all of that, right? So let's just go ahead and run this one time so we see how it behaves. As you can see, this is working perfectly. It's now going into set our database, it has downloaded the file, is now trying to extract the details from. So this means that our system is working perfectly. As you can see right now, it works perfectly. So if you have any questions around this setup, you can let me know in the comment. And if you are a recruiter or you run a recruitment agency and you want to cut down the admin work and the operational work currently going on, and you want something more advanced and something more personalized to you, then you might want to book a strategy call with me. The link is going to be in the description. Thank you so much for sticking around. If you like videos like this and you want to subscribe to this channel, it encourages me to keep doing this. So thank you so much, and thank you so much for sticking around. I'm going to be seeing you in my next one. Mwah.